Make a motion to return meeting to reopen from closed session, or from recession, recess. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is carried. Thank you so much for coming this evening. Please proceed.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, Council members and members of the public. Tonight I'm here to introduce the 2015 budget for the Township of Vernon. The first sheet that I have up for you is what's on the first page of our budget document for the state. This is our governing body and certain municipal employees and officials. Our tax base is what we're basing our tax rate on, and it is the total of the net valuation taxable. So for 2015, that number was $2,644,402,594. The tax base increases and decreases based on tax appeals, revaluations, increases, improvements to properties, or if we have new properties being built within the town. From 2014 to 15, it was decreased by $11,144,000, or less than 0.5%. For our 2015 budget, the total amount for the total budget will be $23,723,728. This is a decrease of $608,292. Our analysis of revenue shows where our money is coming in. This year, the amount that will be increased, the different categories will be fund balance, local revenue anticipated, construction code revenue anticipated, the Vernon Township MUA, and that's due to the increase in the SCUMA contract, and the amount to be raised by taxation. Decreases are from shared services, grants, although some of the grants will be added during the year as we have Chapter 159s, as we are awarded new grants. And other special items, repayments of debt service, and our receipts from delinquent taxes. This chart shows just graphically what the split is for all our revenues. Amounts to be raised by taxation for the current year and receipts from delinquent for prior year total 70.1%. The next slide talks about our analysis of appropriations. That is the money that is going out and where we're spending it. Items that will increase this year will be for municipal purposes. Other, which is the Vernon MUA for the SCUMA contract. Debt service. And deferred charges, which is a result of the tax maps that we did our special emergency for in 14. Items that will decrease are shared service, grants, capital improvement fund, and our reserve for uncollected taxes. This graphically shows how our split is of what we're spending our money on. As you can see, municipal purposes is 70.6% of our appropriations, and you might wonder where that's all going. If you look at this next slide, 26% is for insurance, which includes health, liability, workers' comp. Utilities are 3% of our budget. General government is 14%, which includes all of the smaller departments, such as the administrator's office, the clerk's office, mayor and council, finance, tax collection, tax assessment, planning and zoning, and the building department. Public safety is 28% of our budget. That covers the police, dispatch, emergency, volunteer emergency services, and our fire prevention department. Public Works is 15%, which includes our Department of Public Works for roads, fleet maintenance, buildings and grounds, and recycling, and also our Municipal Services Act money. 3% of our budget will, for municipal purposes, will go to community programs for animal control, recreation, senior citizens, and I believe that's it. I'm missing one thing. And 11% is for our statutory payments for pension and Social Security. Our reserve for uncollected taxes is required by the state. It's money that we have to raise additionally to cover for people who do not pay their taxes in the current year. How we come up with this number is we take our appropriations for municipal purposes, what we're estimating the school taxes to be, what we're estimating the county taxes to be, and then we divide that by the tax rate from the prior year to come up with that additional amount of money that we're going to need to have to cover in case people don't pay. Last year, our tax collection rate was 97.2%, which made our reserve for uncollected taxes 1.9 million. So it has decreased from last year as a result of our collection rate increasing. There's not as many delinquent taxes to have to collect, and you'll also notice in the revenue that our delinquent receipts from delinquent taxes has dropped as a result of that. If you look at the 5-year municipal tax rate analysis, you'll see that in 2011, our tax rate was 59.5 cents, and it's consecutively gone down with a little bump this year, bringing us to 57.6 cents. And how does that impact the average taxpayer? Our average taxpayer is a $218,000 home. Multiply by the tax rate, and the average tax bill will be $1,260.91, or an increase of $12.75, which is roughly $1 a month. So if you look at this final screen in closing, municipal taxes account for 21% of our tax bill. County taxes are 19%, and school taxes are 60% of our tax bill. I'd like to thank you for listening to me introduce our budget, and thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from members of the council?
What do you attribute the reserve for uncollected taxes going down? What do you attribute?
Well, our tax collection rate went up.
Yeah, I realize that, but what programs or what is, I just, I find it really comforting that people are all paying their taxes and it's getting done. Is there a different system to collection, or?
Our tax collector is very diligent about sending delinquent notices, really sending delinquent notices and making phone calls, and we're trying to work with the mortgage companies to get that rate up. And hopefully it's a sign that the economy is...
Nice $385,000 decrease. It's a very nice decrease.
And if I may, that is a savings to the taxpayers overall. That $300,000 is less amount that you have to raise in 2015.
We're able to pay some more on the debt service. That's all I have right now.
Are there any other questions? I think it should be worth noting that one tax point this year is equal to $264,440 in some sense. And you were looking at the reserve for uncollected taxes being decreased by how much?
385.
So it saves us over a point right there.
Is that 300?
Mayor, I can only say that in looking at the progression of the tax rate in 2011, when we first took office with you, to present, it's been a trend of either down or flat. So I don't know how anybody could be unhappy about that, especially with the amount of services that have been increased, especially this evening when we saw the number of police officers that were added. And township certainly hasn't decreased in size.
If I may, Mr. President?
Certainly.
People who deserve the credit for that are sitting in this room right now. Two to my left, people sitting to the left side of the room. You're the people who really make it happen. All that any leader can do is indicate the direction that you want to move. It wasn't until the employees of Vernon Township in 2011, in the fall of 2011, bought into some ideas that they may not have heard before, embraced them, and the benefit to the Vernon Township taxpayers, it will resonate for many, many years to come. And I can't say enough how proud I am of my department heads. You all know that while you held the budget hearings, I was on vacation with my family. I want to report to the council that while I was on vacation, this township ran. As a matter of fact, I know that you might like this, Mrs. Murphy. It showed that we don't really need me. Those people are really good enough to do the job. And I want that on the public record. It's important. So I thank you people publicly, and I hope that you as council members really appreciate where this progress has come from.
I also think it should be worth noting, it's worth noting that from 2011 through now, and then even prior to 2011, the value of Vernon decreased substantially.
During my mayoralty, that number is $220 million.
So if we were to look at the reverse, if you were just held the same from when we came in and through now, our taxes would have gone down considerably less.
Well, if you use 260,000
60,000, yeah.
as a point divided into 220 million, you'll figure out how taxes would have gone down had we not had the lost value. But as I'm sure you know, and people who understand government know, we are tasked as the fiduciary agent for all three branches of government, and we must collect and be sure that we have the money to pay 100% of the appropriations to the school board and the county. So with that responsibility, okay, and the potential for dramatic tax decrease, it would have been wonderful. We did experience those kinds of things in the 80s. As I'm sure you know, there was a time when we were involved in government in the 80s, and Vernon built its way out of
Right.
appropriation problems, tax problems. Those days are gone. The Highlands Act has made it quite clear that we will not see significant residential development in Vernon Township, and so our plan as a township, your plan and mine together, which we put in place when we came here in 2011, was to in fact increase the commercial base and the commercial ratable. That $220 million reduction that I'm talking to you about would have been higher had it not been for the construction of the Red Tail Lodge, or for the construction of the Vernon Urgent Care, or for the construction of the Dollar General store. And so the point I'm making to you is that while we've come through tough economic times, people have seen fit to continue to invest in the commercial areas of Vernon Township. And I do believe as the economy gets better, we'll see that happen even more. And just maybe, we will be able to bring into balance the assessed value of the community and the taxes that are necessary to run it.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Any other questions?
Well, I just have
Certainly.
a simple question. In past municipal data sheets, we've had sheet 3C.
They took that away this year. It's going to be on the user-friendly budget, which will be shown at the public hearing that night. You'll get the user-friendly budget.
So where do we find that information? What sheet?
It'll be, it's a separate document, the user-friendly budget that the state is now requiring townships to produce. That compensated absence liability, is that the one you're talking about? And also the structural imbalances will be on the user-friendly budget. They're no longer on the state budget.
The state eliminated that form.
But we don't have the user-friendly budget until after the budget is introduced.
It'll be the night of the adoption,
Right.
you'll get that. That's when we have to show it.
The budget always has to be advertised in the paper, I believe, right?
Yes.
What form will be advertised?
It's in summary form, and it lists main sources of revenue and main sources of appropriations, and it has the hearing date on it and when copies are made available. You also need to put a copy at the library,
Right.
and there'll be a copy at the clerk's office.
Are there any other questions?
Well, I'm just wondering whether we should have a work session to make some small changes before it goes to vote.
Excuse me, Mr. President, once this budget is adopted, there are no changes that'll be made. That's state law,
It hasn't been adopted yet.
once it's introduced. Check it. Am I right, Mr. Urson?
Correct. You would have to reintroduce it.
Thank you.
All right.
You get to vote up or down, yes or
Okay.
no.
I believe that was the purpose of the,
This evening's
Draft budget,
exercise. Yes.
there being no further questions, I will ask for a motion to introduce the budget with a public hearing to be held on April 13, 2015. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion made by Mr. Lynch. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Wetzel. And we have a roll call vote?
Councilmember Kadesh?
No.
Councilmember Lynch?
Yes.
Councilmember Murphy?
Yes.
Councilmember Wetzel?
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto?
Yes. The motion passes. The budget will be introduced on April 13th, the meeting of April 13th for final approval.
The budget will be introduced. We just introduced the budget.
Adopt.
With a public hearing, I'm sorry, to adopt it. Council comments. Mrs. Murphy.
I just wanted to let the council be aware that a few weeks ago, I called the Land Conservancy because I was just trying to touch base with San Diego to find out what stage the whole appraisal process was in. And I called her twice. They do not call back. So just,
Because it's not your purview. There are in fact.
excuse me, but I'm not speaking to you. I'm not.
Matter.
Yeah, it does matter.
Once
It really
again,
does
have
matter.
overstepped
No,
your responsibility.
You're out of order. You shouldn't be speaking. It's my turn to comment, not yours.
Mrs. Murphy.
I can call whoever I please.
Mrs. Murphy, please
I
complete your...
don't think so, Mrs. Murphy.
Then could you please ask him to stop?
I'm sure the mayor will be glad
Interrupting
to
me.
allow you to complete your comments, and then you can have his turn. Go ahead.
Anyhow, I called the Land Conservancy because I'd like to get an idea of the process of what it goes through, and I did not get a call back. I am free to call whoever I please, and I just thought I'd let you be aware that they do not call back because obviously, and the mayor was not able to provide that information. So he was away on vacation. I made a call. They don't call back.
Mr. President, they know the law, you don't. Secondly, I was able to provide the information. I chose not to. The negotiations are not done. When the negotiations are done, I will bring them forward, as is the law that this government was formed under. Period.
And I'll still call whoever I please.
You may call whoever you please, but under this, under municipal...
Please
under
don't
munici-
add, please
under
don't
mun-
add to it, Mr.
Under municipal
Rizzuto.
code, I'm
Don't try to
simply...
chastise me.
I'm not chastising you. I'm simply explaining that under the present municipal code that was adopted by this council, this government, that the mayor does all negotiations of contracts. It is not the purvey of
I didn't say
members
I
of
was
council.
calling to negotiate. I'm trying to get
Involving your-
information.
Involving yourself with individuals who are involved in the discussion of contracts could be considered as interference and might,
Oh, stop.
I'm sorry, it might hurt. Perhaps you haven't been involved in, significant
Perhaps,
transactions.
once again, you should stop.
No, I think you should stop.
No, that's not going to
Mr.
happen.
Kadish.
No comment.
Mr. Lynch.
I'd like to
excuse me, are you threatening me?
I still
Are you
say
threatening me,
I'd
Mayor?
like to thank the,
No, ma'am.
the people who made the budget possible tonight. Also like to put a special thank you to Dave Polis. I know you had an easy winter this year. It wasn't, there weren't too many snowstorms to deal with. I have to tell you, Dave, if there's any more snow, I have to tell you, you've done a great job, and I know that the salt issue not being available to many municipalities has created a lot of problems for a lot of people, especially the DPW people. I really want to thank your employees, from the mechanics to the drivers, to the people who made this winter a little bit more bearable, and it was mostly unbearable. I know when I go to work at 3:30 in the morning and I see the plow drivers that have been up since, 7, 8 o'clock the night before, and I stop to say thank you, and they're not in a very talkative mood because they've been awake all night. I can understand that. But I'd also like to thank the animal control for their ability to get those 2 turkeys off of Canister Road. They were causing problems, actually. They were stopping traffic. I mean, it might seem like a silly subject, but it was causing a problem. And I'd like to thank Bud Jones for coming tonight. I know that you would have rather sat home and did a lot of other things, but I guess that's your job, is to come here, so I'm glad you were. Thank you all. That's all I have.
Mr. Wetzel.
Yeah, I would like to thank Mr. Jones for answering Mr. Zuckerman's questions about situations that were brought up in the local press. And I'm surprised that Mrs. Yetter did not also ask the same questions about things that were written. And again, the road department, excellent, and how can you not like this budget because the taxes are not being raised? So how can you criticize the budget? That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Wetzel. My compliments to the mayor and his staff for an outstanding budget. Once again, I think it's a very, very strong budget, and it responds to the needs of the community. My feeling is that money is the fuel that drives the township. Without it, we don't know where we're going, how far we can go, and how fast we can go. And I think with the amount of money that we've been using, we're moving along. Our debt service is being reduced. We are increasing our fund balance, and we are in a very, very strong financial position. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, department heads, for a job well done. Just a small housekeeping issue. Within the budget, there's an amount for seminars and educational classes, which I know Mr. Wetzel and I and Mr. Kadish and Mrs. Murphy attended a meeting on budgeting just recently. But that amount needs to be considered against the total amount that's available should everybody want to go to the League of Municipalities. And I think perhaps the fairest way of doing that is simply to divide it by 6, so that we're bringing it up to $533 per person. Once that amount is expended, if you want to use your own money to supply, to respond to classes or anything, you're certainly welcome to do it. So, other than that, I will ask for a motion to. Oh, by the way, please make sure you take a flyer on the table for the that was reprinted in New Jersey League of Municipalities. And I do have one question from Mr. Jones. In this year's audit, how many recommendations were there?
We haven't issued.
You haven't completed it yet?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Ask the question slightly different, excuse me. How many were in last year's?
How many were in last year's?
Honestly, I don't remember.
One? Okay. Is that the same one that we really ought to try and get more people in here so that there's more separation of responsibilities?
Same one.
Same one. And we keep telling you, when you can find more dollars and let Santa Claus give them to us, maybe we'll consider it. Okay, thank you. There'll be no further questions, comments? I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. I'm sorry, do you have a?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion. Second.
Made, second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Thursday.
Aye. Motion carries.
Oh, you're off tomorrow on Wednesday for the eyes?
For the eyes.